Hello, 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 everyone. It is Alan Davidson, and thank you so much for being here on this very special day. And welcome to this training on infinite love and how to embody the infinite love that you are. So I'm so thrilled that you're here. Welcome. And I've got a little prescription for you, a little recipe for how you actually begin to embody that infinite love. Um, all the great scriptures of the mystical world, starting with Jesus, love one another, um, Buddhism, Hinduism, Sufism, the Kabbalah, all point to the reality that at the essence of who we are infinite love. And in my experience, we need divine clarity, we need to know our soul purpose, and then we need to be empowered um, to embody that soul purpose so that we can then become and embody our infinite love, our true nature, our unique essence. And the thing about power is that, one, there are blocks that keep us from that power, and then that we have to activate ourselves to that. So just welcome everyone, all enlightening people, and especially the enlightening entrepreneurs. I'm a firm believer that the future of our world really rests with those of us that are on an embodied enlightenment path, and particularly those entrepreneurs, those small business people who are on an enlightening journey for themselves, and they're running small enlightening businesses, and they're using enlightening marketing, are the ones that are going to have a really significant impact in the next couple of years in the transformation of our world. So welcome, everyone. Thrilled to have you. This training is for you if you are longing in your heart of hearts, in your soul of souls, to return home, to return to that place of infinite love, peace, understanding, happiness. This training is also for you, for those of you who really, at an intuitive level, realize that if we continue to stay stuck in the level of consciousness that we call three-dimensional time and space, which is that level of consciousness of the ego self, that we are doomed as a species, that we will continue to recreate the problems that plague us and cause so much suffering over and over and over. So if you intuit that love and wisdom and awareness is an understanding out of that ego consciousness, then you're in the right place. And if you also intuit that embodying this highest levels of love opens a new way, it opens a new way of being in the world, of clearly seeing yourself, clearly seeing the other people in your life. If you understand that there are rules of engagement that are dictated by love as opposed to dictated by fear, then you're in the right place. So I just want to say I'm broadcasting to you from Houston, Texas. I'd like to just hear who's on the line and enter in the chat. And so Rex from New Zealand has already said hello. So I'd love to hear, where are you listening from on this special day? When I talk about embodying love and these new rules of engagement, I mentioned entrepreneurs a minute ago. And as you'll see shortly, I wear a number of hats. I'm a Renaissance guy, but I'm really active in the business and marketing world. And I really see a new paradigm of the way businesses, small businesses and corporations equally, can run, and the way that marketing can be done. So much of business and marketing was geared to activating qualities of desire and need that were based on lack. And this new paradigm based on love is really about helping people align and embody with them, uh, with their highest selves, so that they can make a clear understanding and make a clear choice on what's the next right strategic step for them based on that alignment with their higher selves. And that's a level of clarity and communication and purpose that I really want to dive deeply into today. So this training is not for people that I call spiritual escapists. There are, one of the dangers or one of the pitfalls of a spiritual life is we actually can find ways that are considered spiritual to keep us from the immediate experience of our bodies, that keep us from being really present to the sensations in our body and present to the circumstances in our life and present to the people in our lives. And a lot of people in the New Age movement and even the classical Enlightenment tradition were following paths of escapism. And so this training is about getting as immediately present in your body, in your heart, in your mind as you possibly can, and allowing portals of awareness and consciousness to open up and expand within you that go way beyond three-dimensional time and space, and that go way beyond um, uh, our normal ways of experiencing the world. And when we have activated our sensation and our skills at being aware of the sensation of these subtler and subtler and subtler ways of being, then we can embody them and bring the wisdom and the tremendous power and clarity that comes with that awareness. So, if you're a spiritual escapist, I invite you to hang out, and maybe you'll hear something that'll invite you back into this world of the senses. And everybody else, let's get started. So I want to frame this path by one of my favorite poets and one of my favorite couplets from one of his poems. And Rumi is, he's the great Sufi master. He was a teacher of mystical Islam and is considered one of the greatest poets in the history of humanity, but particularly a sacred poet, a poet who is speaking to the divine. He talks about his beloved, and when he's talking about the beloved, he's really talking about God or God consciousness. And he says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. And that's a really, really essential piece of our formula for today. Because so many of us are looking for love. We're looking for infinite love. We're looking for reunion with our Christ consciousness or with our divine self, our divine being. And just by that looking outside of ourselves for that, looking externally, we set in motion a mechanism that says, oh, I am not my Christ consciousness. I am not my own divine being. And so what Rumi is pointing to here is don't go looking for love. Just simply look at all the defenses, the character traits, the behaviors, the thought and emotional patterns, the ways of moving and being in the world that keep me from experiencing love. And the wisdom there is to start to dismantle all those barriers from the inside out. Because love is just waiting there at the core of our being. That's who we are. But until we neutralize, dissolve, remove those barriers, there's always going to appear to be something that separates us from our most unique and magnificent selves. So we're going to talk today about some of the ways to do that. What I'm going to show you today is the importance of divine clarity and getting a real sense of who you are. And we're going to look at the multiple levels of not only our five intelligences, physical, emotional, mental, moral, and spiritual IQs, but then what is our spiritual anatomy and the more subtle levels of our being. We're going to talk about our soul purpose and the five qualities of our soul purpose. We're going to talk about power and what are the ways to activate the innate power of consciousness within you, and then what are some of the blocks that keep you sort of stuck in the way that you're being. We're going to talk about infinite love, your divine self, and embodying your unique divine self. And then at the end of our presentation today, we're going to clear two of the energetic or spiritual blocks that are most likely keeping you stuck in an old paradigm of being, in an old way of being. So you definitely want to stick around till around 50, 60 minutes of this presentation, and we'll do two clearings. So I would like to just hear from you, if you would enter into the chat. How many of you here have this sort of haunting sense that you don't quite really know who you are yet? That you were born, you were raised by a family, you grew up in a culture, and there's some element of mistaken identity. It's like, okay, I am the person that my culture and my family created me to be, but I know that there is something much greater for me. But at the same time, I still don't quite know what that is. And so, enter into the box if you have a sense that there's something more, but you're still not quite clear who that is for you. How many of you have the sense that you have these voices in your head? The monkey mind, as we often say in the meditative world, that voice that is constantly critiquing and analyzing and judging, and that mind just goes 90 to nothing most of the time. And that you also have a sense that you're so much more than that voice in your head, that mental chatter in your head. How many of you here listening feel that your own mindset, that no matter how many years you've been practicing or been on a spiritual path, there's still something within you, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, that's keeping you from accessing your most amazing, most magnificent, most extraordinary self? Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So I see I am in good company here. So thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick reason of why you're here and why I might know a little bit of something of why I'm talking about. So I'm Alan Davidson. I'm your host for this presentation. I midwife this weird evolutionary meditation called enlightened tapping meditation. And it allows somebody who's never meditated before in their entire life in 30 to 40 minutes to have a full-on enlightened Satori Nirvana experience. And it's a technology that obviously I stand on the shoulders of giants, and then combining it with the body-centered somatic quality of EFT tapping and the shadow work that I do, it really is an evolutionary meditation. So I'm the midwife of that. I sit on the board of directors for the Center for Integral Wisdom with some of the great thinkers and teachers of our time. Ken Wilber, who is the creator of integral philosophy, Michael Beckwith, Barbara Marx Hubbard, who is the grande dame of evolutionary consciousness, Sally Kempton, who is a great teacher of sort of the classic Hindu tradition, the Siddha tradition particularly. John Gray, who studied many, many years with Maharishi, and the author of Mars and Venus. Jack Canfield, who's the author of Chicken Soup of the Soul and many other great books. So I sit on the board of directors with those people, and we are consciously creating a movement of transformation. And you who are listening to this broadcast today are part of that movement. I'm the author of Body Brilliance, Mastering Your 5 Vital Intelligences. Again, physical, emotional, mental, moral, and spiritual IQs. It's a #1 health and wellness bestseller and won 2 National Book of the Year awards when it came out. And then, as I mentioned, I'm a business entrepreneur. I'm particularly a marketing strategist. I'm a product launch strategist. And I've done over 64 designs and or manage product launches in the spirituality niche. And my clients often pay for $20,000 for 2 days of consulting with me. And as many of you know, that I always did not live such an extraordinary life. I moved to Houston in 1980. I very, very quickly rekindled my passion for being an IV drug user. I fell in with the epicenter of IV drug users here in Houston, and went to work in the nightclub scene here, the gay nightclub scene, and became quite a personality. These are pictures of one of my alter egos, a passionetta von Climax, getting ready for a performance. When HIV/AIDS first hit the gay community in 1983, we didn't know what caused it. But by the time 1987, 88 rolled around, we knew that HIV was caused by a virus. And I just assumed that I would die a very painful and lonely death because I had shared needles with men who had already died from AIDS. So and we knew that sharing syringes was one of the ways that people contacted HIV. And so I just assumed that I would die. But I did get clean and sober in 1988. And I had to decide, am I making short-term plans for my life or am I making long-term plans for my life? And I happened to live with a medical doctor. And he was a bit of a specialist in HIV in the gay community. He kept saying, Alan, I think you might be negative. You're just too healthy. And he told me that over and over and over for a period of 6 months. Alan, I think you just might be negative. You're too healthy. And so I decided to roll the dice and go and get an HIV test. And miracle of miracles, I felt that the divine placed her hand on my shoulder and spared me because I was and still am HIV negative. And I left the clinic that day, the AIDS clinic, vowing to do something to get my life in order, to use the skills and the talents and the gifts that I had been given, and to make a difference, particularly in my community that was suffering so much. And 4 months later, I found myself in massage school. And that began the long, long journey of turning things around. That was, I've been a massage therapist for 27 years now, so it feels like another lifetime almost. I've been clean and sober. I did have a relapse in 1990, and actually March 1st of this year, I will have been clean and sober 31 years. And one of the things that has been a highlight to me through all of those years of sobriety and transformation is a body-centered meditation. Again, focusing on the sensations of my body and being as present in my physical body to my emotions, to the thought patterns of my mind, to my choices and the behaviors that so often tend to be a habit. So it's a essential part of my being and my teaching. I'm very excited. On July 19th, 2016, I've been invited to speak at Harvard University on the Enlightenment Revolution, which is my term for this tipping point of consciousness that all of us on this webinar and our brothers and sisters around the world, and particularly the entrepreneurs, the small business entrepreneurs, the impact that we're having in creating a tipping point, a critical mass, if you will, that will help uplift not only ourselves, but every human being on the planet. So it's exciting. So I promise to give you, the next, hour to 75 minutes of my very best. I'm cramming 38 years of study into today's training. We will do a Q&A at the end of the presentation. And then with your permission, I will make an invitation for those that want to go deeper. I can only share so much of what I've learned and what I've come to understand in an hour and 15 minutes. And then after that invitation, there'll be another round of Q&A to answer any questions that anybody has. So again, I want to come back to, we talked a little bit about clarity and asked a few questions about clarity. How many of you feel now that you don't actually know what your soul purpose is, or that you're not working in alignment with your soul purpose, whatever the demands are on your time and attention during the day are not in harmony or alignment with your soul purpose? Who here doesn't really know who you came to this life, this incarnation to be? Who here in your heart of hearts doesn't really know why you're here? And, so we're going to get some clarity on that. And then I'm going to begin to show you how you can connect to your higher self and then start to download your higher purpose. So getting clear on who you are. Well, and if we were in a retreat setting, the first thing we would actually do a round of enlightened tapping. So for those of you that are students and are already familiar with the enlightened tapping, I'm just going to invite you to make the shift with me, and please allow me to speak to your rainbow unique self. So shifting in your chair and just taking a moment and just, who am I speaking to? And speaking out loud, I am my rainbow unique self. Now, for those of you that are new to my work, that's going to sound like mumbo jumbo. But for those of us that have actually learned this enlightened tapping process and being able to shift into our higher selves, we have an actual sensory physical memory of that. And so that's the first thing, is to get an experience, a glimpse of who you are. Unfortunately, this program we don't have the time. It takes about 45 minutes to set it up and teach it, and then really about an hour to go through it, an hour totally. So this is not an introduction to enlightened tapping. We'll do that another time. But the idea is that you have voices in your head. You might have noticed there's an inner critic. There might be a victim, or there might be a bully. There might be that voice of anger. There could be a voice that's really intimidated, a voice of shame. There can be a voice of, we got to get things done. Got to get things done. Hey, get to it. Push, push, push. Do. There's that part of you that might be a good mother or a good sister, part of you that could be a good father or a good brother. We wear many, many different hats during a day, and those depend on the different kinds of relationships we move in. But there are voices within us, there's sub-personalities within us that step forward to manage that circumstance. But what we've come to realize is that all the voices of a consciousness, all the layers and subtle qualities of our most enlightened self are already, always, absolutely available to us in any precious moment. And with intention and with a shift, we can begin to speak to and speak through those voices and those enlightened selves. And that's a very, very important piece, is that all your enlightened self, your highest self, your most magnificent, extraordinary self is already always awake. And as Rumi said, I don't need to go looking for that. I just need to remove the barriers that I've erected to it. And that's the same true. I mean, our most magnificent self embodies unconditional love. Absolutely. And so we have to begin to remove those barriers that keep us from our most enlightened, magnificent self. But I want you to um, 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 so that was sort of, this is the introduction to enlightened tapping there. So one of the ways I talk about understanding consciousness is this pyramid of consciousness. So there on that left-hand side, there's that separate self. That's the ego self. That's the part of you that navigates three-dimensional time and space. And that all of those voices of consciousness are based on separation. And they're driven by two irrational fears. All those voices, those two irrational fears, are a fear of abandonment and a fear of annihilation, of being hurt, wounded, destroyed. A fear of abandonment being, kicked to the curb, kicked out of the circle, being exiled from the tribe, being abandoned and left absolutely in isolation. And those are fears that are imprinted upon you by the way that we were raised, because we are so vulnerable as infants that we rely for such a long period for every aspect of our safety, of our nutrition, of our care, of our comfort on other people, other beings, that no being could ever be perfect. And so, and unfortunately, in the world that we live in, there are a lot of cases where people have had to fear for their safety, have had to fear for their very lives, or that they've been neglected and they've been ridiculed and abandoned. So those fears are imprinted at the base of the consciousness of the separate self. Now, the path of classical enlightenment is to meditate and to retreat and to access these amazing exalted states of awareness called Buddha mind, or unborn Buddha mind, or stillness of pure being, or nirvana, or the divine mother, the divine feminine. And those are very impersonal states. They're very cosmic. And when you sense them and feel them, they are very expansive, very beautiful. But they're also, there's the sense that there is no ego. The ego is an illusion. It's just a small speck of flotsam in the consciousness that is all of the universes. And so it's a very beautiful place. And so that's that shift to the no self that's on that right bottom of the pyramid there. And then the evolutionary piece of consciousness that's really come online in about the last 140 years, and particularly in the last 20 years, and this is what enlightened tapping really does, is we move to the peak of that pyramid. It transcends, includes, and integrates all aspects of consciousness. So it includes the ego and the separate self and all those voices. It also includes the impersonal self, all those beautiful enlightened, and it fully integrates them, gives you access to them, gives you a skillful way to use them when you need them in whatever circumstance arises. And that's all done through the sensory experience of your body and being in the present moment. So, that's just a quick thumbnail description of, what is a full day course right there. If you happen to be familiar with Stephen Hawking and his scale, his vibrational scale, he talked about every conscious being in the world being on a scale of 0 to 1,000. And 0 to 200 is a spectrum of fear. 200 to 500 is a spectrum of sort of consciousness coming online, all the way up to reason. At 500, we shift into that experience of love. And 700, a vibration of 700, is what's called classical enlightenment. That expansive opening of pure awareness and cosmic love. And so when we move to the unique self, we move to the high 700s or low 800s on that vibrational scale. And it's just an amazing experience to have that. And now, how do we embody those pieces? Before I go to that, I want to, and part of my journey and what you're getting today is, it's one thing to create a meditative practice that allows you to shift into these exalted states. Beautiful, wonderful. For most people, it's the first time that they've ever felt that enlightened aspect of themselves. But after teaching this for a couple of years and realizing that people aren't able to embody it, they aren't able to say that, they keep getting hijacked back to the separate self, to the ego self. And they keep spending time dealing with those irrational fears of abandonment and annihilation that drive so many of our defense mechanisms, and that we get triggered by something in the world and we're immediately, a 5-year-old girl or a 6-year-old boy, depending on the different points that we were traumatized. And it's like, okay, so all well and good. It's great to, have an enlightened experience, but how do I live there? And so I began to look deeper at, okay, what it really is, the nature of the psyche, and then what is that thing that keeps us blocked. And so, here is a couple of different ways of looking at. So our consciousness, I've always known for 27 years at least that, we had a physical and emotional, mental, moral, and a spiritual quality to our being. But what's become clear is that spiritual dimension, that soul or that spirit, is so much vaster and subtle and nuanced that I had realized, and that how easy it is to have blocks that are imprinted at that subtle spiritual self that keep us from embodying. So here's just a couple of ways of being with this, of looking at. So if you look at the bottom row of the chart, the levels of being: human, soul, oversoul, avatar, and rishi. So our soul is really from the 4th chakra up. Our human is from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd chakras, that sort of, that embodiment, that incarnate quality of our life. The soul is the 4th, 5th, and 6th chakras. The oversoul is the 7th, 8th, and 9th chakras. The oversoul is, again, it's a part of our soul, but it is that part that also includes every soul that's incarnate in all the created universes. So it's at that level that we are all one. It's also that part of that subtle energy of our soul that actually moves through every level of consciousness in all the created universes. So it's not only we're one with every soul, but we're one with everything. The avatar is that quality. It's a higher level of ourself that has actually started to embody the qualities of God, himself or herself. It's the Christ avatar, the Buddha avatar, the Nirvana avatar, and it's how we've begun to embody our Buddha nature, our Christ nature, Divine Mother nature. And then that top level, the rishi level, are the most evolved, the most powerful, most profound qualities of our highest self. And those are the greatest saints and sages and poets who write these beautiful hymns and mystical treatises on the enlightened path. Now, we also have a correlation with our normal states of being. And we actually, in a 24-hour period, all of us go through all of these. Unfortunately, most of us are not conscious of them. So starting at the bottom again, there's waking, dreaming, deep sleep, witness, and non-dual awareness. Waking, again, is our three-dimensional time and space. But as many people will tell you, we're not very conscious. We're not very aware of what's going on. I mean, so let me ask you this. As you're going through your day, how aware are you of your physical body? Are you able to distinguish between being thirsty and being hungry? How many of you are able to sit down when you're hungry and eat a meal? And then how many are able to stop when you have that sensation of, okay, I'm full, I'm complete? Or how many of you are able to, walk through a garden and you see a beautiful rose and you're able to stop and actually be present with the color and the texture and the aroma and the different qualities of light that's bouncing off that rose? Most of us are just in our monkey minds. We're trapped in our imaginations and ricocheting from moment to moment, to circumstance to circumstance, and letting, life run us. Now, dreaming is the dream state. That is when we go to sleep and we actually move into a subtler realm of being. Again, that's the soul state. Deep sleep is when we go into that place, and that's usually when we're entering into deep theta of the brain waves, and we actually are for the first time separate from our normal local human consciousness. Then we move up to witness, which is again a much more expansive cosmic quality, but it's that quality of watching, aware, attention, awaiting, and ability to be non-judgmental, be non-distracted, and just witness, just watching as things arise and as things fall. And then there's the non-dual, when you really move into that again, that rishi level of being. That state is non-duality. It's like there is no other. I am one. I am all that is. And that's the full experience of it. With the chakras, most people are familiar with the 7 embodied chakras, but then we actually go through the 15 subtle layers of the chakras and the subtle dimensions of consciousness. So that's sort of a map. And what I'm here to tell you is that when we have experiences, I call them karmic imprints or memories or echoes. In the tantric tradition, the yogic tradition, they call them sanskaras. And it's the idea that if we were all crystal clear, that we didn't have any blocks at all at any level of our being, that a circumstances would happen, and we would be completely present and at ease and at peace with it, and that circumstance would just pass through us, our energetic beings, with no contraction, no tightness, no resistance at all. The minute that we are in the middle of a circumstance and we contract and we have the thought, this is not good, this should be different, I should be someplace else. Anytime there's a contraction, physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, or by some choice in behavior, then we actually attach to the energy of that circumstance, and we hold on to it, and it's stored in our energy bodies. And as those circumstances arise over and over and over, and particularly things like certain fears, certain dislikes, certain distaste happen, they begin to shape our psyche. They shape the voices in ourselves. And a lot of who we believe our personality to be is simply based on our energetic contractions of what we like and what we don't like. We spend a lot of time trying to create the things that we do like and avoid the things that we don't. But the important thing to remember, there's an imprint, there's a karmic imprint, there's a residue of contraction that stays and lives in our energetic system. And all of a sudden, that translucent rainbow body of light from infrared to ultraviolet that is just shimmering with being, all of a sudden starts to get clogged and contracted and dense. And that light begins to shift from a flowing liquid light to what I call frozen light. And the web of our energetic being, the chakras, the meridians, the axial tonal lines, all start to act like a spider's web that are contracting and holding on to things. And those imprints become denser and tighter and contracted. And we actually begin to see them in the way that our mind works and the way that our emotions and our emotional habits work. And the actual structure of our physical bodies begin to reflect this frozen light that's caught in our subtle anatomy. And so that's what I mean by blocks. So I talk about blocks to connecting to our spiritual self. It's that frozen light within our spiritual anatomy that has an equivalent of neural pathways in our mind and our brain, emotional pathways in our bodies, and actual structural ways that we physically hold our body. So these karmic imprints affect us at every level of our being, at all level of our intelligences. And so clearing those blocks, if you just exercise, if you just did yoga or martial arts or kung fu or something like that, and you were working on the physical part, you can make some progress. If you're in psychotherapy and you're working on the emotional responses to things that trigger you, you can make some progress for sure. If you do take on a rigorous meditation program, you can then begin to change the way your mind works. But if you do not clear the blocks at the subtle anatomy, then those patterns are going to simply recreate themselves. So we're going to do a clearing in a little bit that's actually going to show you how to clear the priority karmic imprints that are activated up and keeping you the most blocked from your higher self and one other level of your being. So how does that sound? Let's see. Okay, so I want to dive into soul purpose. And so, your soul purpose is when we talk about really that stream of being human, the soul, the oversoul, the avatar, the rishi self, as you choose to come into this life, you come in with the idea of these are the things that I'm going to achieve through my soul. And so there are different levels of that soul purpose and different qualities of it. And how I work with them. And now it's important to remember that when we are able to use the enlightened tapping, we're able to go to those places of classical enlightenment, unborn Buddha mind, big heart, divine mother, stillness of pure being. And then when we come back and we go to the rainbow unique self, that peak of the pyramid, we're actually integrating our aware ego, our conscious ego, with all of our enlightened selves. And we're really integrating them and embodying them at that level. From that place of awareness, we can communicate with our soul, our oversoul, our avatar self, our rishi self. We can get absolute clarity and communication that comes directly from our own highest self. You don't need to look outside of yourself for any of this information. It's already always awake and aware and available to you. And just knowing how to shift and access it. So as you are able to connect to those highest places of yourself, here there's some different levels and qualities of soul purpose, and there are really many, but these are the primary ones that I focus on. One is knowing what your universal soul purpose is. And in my experience, there's three. Now, there's a number of different words that people would use to describe these three, and I'm going to tell you what they are. The universal soul purpose is awareness, or love, or wisdom. So let's just unpack those for a minute. So awareness is a divine masculine or a divine yang impulse, and it is that ultimate place of pure awareness, pure presence, just being, and then being proactive and procreative in the world, bringing into manifestation. So that's that yang quality of awareness. So you can have a path of awareness or a path of presence, a path of manifestation. Then there's the divine feminine impulse, the divine mother, and that's a path of love or compassion. And again, there's many words that can be used to describe these. Love is, it is my nature, it is my path to love all conscious beings, to love everything. Or compassion is really about being in service. It's my mission, my passion, my purpose to be in service to all of humanity, or those parts of humanity that need me most. And then for me, wisdom is really the integration of both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Divine wisdom really is, finding those ways of embodying the yin and the yang, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and being wisdom. And from that place of wisdom, finding the fastest, most strategic, most profound ways of solving the challenges that arise in the moment. And oftentimes in wisdom, it's really about sitting still in awareness, in love, until that inspiration of wisdom comes, and then that inspiration to take an action. So most people tend to think of divine action as go 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 go, but a lot of times it's really about the being and the doing is just sitting in presence, sitting in awareness, and sitting in compassion and being with the suffering until that cosmic impulse of this is the next place to go comes. So in my experience, all of us have one of those three. So I'd like to hear from you. What do you imagine at this point your universal soul purpose is? Awareness, love, or wisdom? So I'd love for you to enter that into the chat for me. And then I'm going to dive into, you're unique. Part of, in 13.5 billion years of evolution of this universe, you and this incarnation in this life is unique. There's never been, your soul has never arisen in this moment exactly as it has, with all the circumstances and experiences you've had, and it never will again. So you are unique. So how you choose to express your soul purpose is actually unique to you. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet, I think. So there's actually 7.5 billion unique soul purposes. But the key is to align your unique soul purpose with your universal soul purpose so that you are constantly expressing. The best definition of karma that I've heard that I absolutely love is the idea that I am taking action that is not in alignment with my higher self. Or another way to say that is I am taking actions that are not aligned with my soul purpose. And every time I take an action which demands uh, a reciprocation, every time I take an action that is out of harmony with my soul purpose, I'm accruing karmic. I'm creating more karmic imprints that must be cleared. It's the only way that I can become karma free and activate and access higher and higher levels of my consciousness. So, beautiful. So I'm reading just a few things that people have written into the text here. So Marie says divine feminine love. Beautiful. Denise talks about moving into wisdom. I think, Denise, we have a primary. I think we do have a primary universal. It's just one or the other. And you know what it is. It's just what lights you up on fire is what really, really gives you your source of energy. Rex says that his purpose is to pass on the wisdom of permaculture to others. This is an ethical concept that affects all aspects of living. And I'll just share a little bit that I know about permaculture is that it is a way of growing plants and vegetables that is in the greatest alignment with the earth herself, with the greatest dignity and respect of the earth, so that the food itself is infused with a vital passion and power that then nourishes all those who enjoy the harvest and bounty of it, and it nourishes every level of their being. So, I would say that there's, you're talking about the wisdom, but Rex, what I'm really hearing is that you're really committed to service, compassionate service. And, you're using the wisdom of the patterns of the universe itself and the patterns of the earth itself, the laws of the earth herself, and being of service. So that's really beautiful. And we have a warrior priestess here. Fabulous. So the divine feminine love. Beautiful. So, so in between that spectrum of the universal and the unique, to go from, say, 3 different, qualities of the universal to 7.5 billion unique expressions in the world, there are a couple of sort of step down places. And that's where mission, message, and legacy become really important. And, your mission is, Rex, you were talking about permaculture. Your mission would be permaculture as a way of wisdom and as a way of life. So using permaculture as a body of work is your mission and your ability to spread it. And then your personal message is why that's important for you and why that's important for other people. And then your legacy is really when you start to look at, what's karma, it's the accumulation of imprints or the removal of imprints. Karma is really just the law of cause and effect. So you're either accruing imprints or you're balancing and cleansing and clearing imprints by every choice that you make. So your legacy is what is left in 3-dimensional time and space once you really transcend and move on to the next life. What is the ultimate result of your soul purpose at the universal level, the unique level, how well you've aligned yourself with your mission and your message, and how much you've embodied that and left the world a better place by the time you transcend. And your divine audience is, there are souls that are incarnated in this life and in this world that are counting on you, that can only hear what they most need to learn from your voice and your teaching. And so your divine audience is the number of souls that have signed up and are willing and ready to listen to you and learn from you and study with you and work with you. Now, I want to say that, some person's unique soul purpose is to be the best parent that they can be, whether it's the best mother or best father. That is their unique purpose, to empower their children to be spiritually activated and spiritually ready to step into the world and have their own impact and to live and embody their own soul purpose. And the world is desperate for parents that are able to do that. And so I don't want to say, only being a good parent, because that's a profound choice and that's a profound gift to those children and to the world if they choose to do that. Their divine audience might be much smaller if their unique soul purpose is to be the most fabulous, enlightened parent that they can possibly be. It might be, 30, 60, 90, 100 people in a lifetime that you are really destined to impact. But how that impact ripples out because of the extraordinary job you've done with your children, it becomes exponential. And some of you, I know, on this call are spiritual teachers and coaches in your own right. And so your divine audience could be hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands. And some of you are destined to be, New York Times bestselling authors. So you have your own divine audience. The important thing is that you have a moral obligation to go toe to toe with the blocks that you have and to empower yourself so that you raise your frequency and you stand in the world as visibly as you can so that your divine audience can and will see you and hear you, and they can be attracted to you and they can find you. It's one thing, can't expect your divine audience to come knocking on your door. They've got to hear about you. And, whether it's meeting you in person or reading a book or an article or hearing an interview or hearing somebody else talk about you, and talk about your website. So, your divine audience is ready for you to step up and step out so that they can find you and work with you. So that's just a little bit about some of the distinctions of soul purpose. And again, for me, this is not something that I tell you. This is something that you actually correspond and connect with and communicate with from your own highest self, from your avatar self, from your Rishi self, from the most clear aspects of you. And that's what I love about this process. It's not anything external at all. It's 100% dialoguing with your highest self, asking these questions, getting clear on the answers, and then I'm going to give you a little tip. So, again, we're not all 100% clear yet. We're still, stuck in the matrix. We all have imprints at this point that we're clearing. And so, the words do not always come as clearly and smoothly as we could. So what I do to really polish and make sure that the message is right on when I'm working with these different qualities of my soul purpose, my universal, my unique, my mission, my message, my legacy. I make affirmations out of them, and I actually go to the mirror and look at myself in the eye, and I repeat these affirmations one by one. And the wording as I'm saying them out loud, morning after morning, I can see where it feels sort of stuck or choppy or not very fluid. And so, the right words will come to me. And, when you look at my notebooks around, soul purpose, you'll see days after days after days of, polishing, and the words get smoother and clearer and more vibrant. And that comes from repeating them out loud in the mirror. So you can turn these different levels of purpose into um, affirmations and test them. So I just wanted to share with you, here's my message right here. This is what, when I meet somebody new, this is what I say to them. I introduce you to your most magnificent, enlightened self. Then I show you how to empower and embody your most fabulous self. From there, and in full enlightenment with your highest self, I show you how to remove all your inner blocks to manifesting all the money and wealth you want and deserve. Next, I show you how to remove the inner blocks to creating all the time you want. Time to be with your family, time for solitude, time to be with your friends, time to travel, time for whatever you most want. And then I show you how to remove the inner blocks to living your divine health and well-being. And finally, I show you how to remove the inner blocks to manifesting your intentions with ease and speed. So that's my message, and that's how I can use it when I meet new people. And, some people are interested, and some people are like, oh, that is out there. You are one weird dude. And I'm used to that, I assure you. But, that part, this all comes from dialoguing with your higher self and getting clear on your message. Some people's message might be, one sentence long. Mine happens to be, a few sentences long. So that's really, kind of wrapping it up on purpose. And I want to just, what do you think you're imagining right now from just what we've done so far? What do you imagine your soul purpose is, your unique soul purpose from here? And I'm also going to ask you basic questions of how many of you have studied for years and you're still not getting the results that you want in your life in some area, whether it's, in alignment with your higher self, communicating with your higher self, embodying your soul purpose. Maybe it's just, earning the kind of money that you know that you deserve and that you're worth, or it's creating the kind of time that you want, to do the things that are important to you instead of, being, hijacked by your calendar and the needs of your boss or your job or other people in your life. How many of you really have the level of health and vitality that you want for yourself? So if you feel like there are blocks, and here's a real simple test to see how clear you are. When you set an intention that is in harmony, in alignment with your highest self, and it manifests with deep ease and deep speed. If you're able to do that, then, great, blessings, fantastic. But if there's some thing that blocks you from manifesting your highest intention in alignment with your highest self, with ease and speed, that tells you that you're carrying around a lot of blocks. So, I just wanted to kind of circle back to the spiritual anatomy again. And this is just a graphic that shows the 15 different dimensions, the 15 different chakras, and sort of where they are on the physical anatomy and the earth and within the spirit itself. But we have blocks and imprints. Most of the people in the world are living from the first three chakras, the top three colors, red, orange, and yellow. Most of the world's population is stuck in three-dimensional time and space. They have not made the leap to the fourth chakra of the heart, the unconditional love of the heart. Now, most of the people on this call have definitely done that, so that's wonderful. But to live a fully empowered life, here's what I've realized. The enlightened tapping will allow you to communicate and connect with your avatar self and your Rishi self, and really experience that witness quality and that non-dual quality of consciousness. Fabulous. But how do you embody it? Well, first, accessing it and getting clear, okay, this is a quality of my higher self, but I've got to turn on the lights. I've actually got to activate the energies so that I can use them. So I want you to imagine that there are five, there's a dimmer switch, and it goes to five different settings. And if you're only at the first through third chakras, you're only at the first chakra, and only a small area of your life is being illuminated. When you make the leap to the next three chakras, 4, 5, and 6, the heart, the throat, the third eye, then that thermostat, that dimmer switch goes on another click. And so there's two things that happen. One, you've accessed three more chakras, but also all six of those chakras now are actually turned up to a brighter level. So two things important happen. One, you access more chakras, and you actually turn up the frequency of energy moving through all six of those chakras. And then what happens is you start to activate the next level of being. You turn that dimmer switch up to a third setting. So that means you turn on the chakras that are 7, 8, and 9, the oversoul quality of your consciousness. And then, but then you've turned it up another notch, so that those first 12 chakras are now up at a whole nother level of intensity. And that goes true for the avatar self. When you activate the 10th, 11th, and 12th chakras, the Christ avatar, Buddha avatar, Nirvana avatar, you turn that dimmer up to the fourth notch. So now you've brought three more chakras online, 1 through 12, and now they're all vibrating at a much greater frequency, and that you are pumping that much more light and energy through the whole system until you fully come in to activate and turn on all levels of your chakras, all 15 dimensions, all 15 chakras. You make that final click, the final three chakras come online, and then also that final burst of power and energy as you're illuminating the first through the 15 chakras at their highest capacity. So you, everywhere you go, you are a beacon of light. You've cleared all the nonsense, all the blocks, all the barriers in your whole being. And just by you living your life, when you go to the dry cleaners or the grocery store, or you go to a meeting at work, or, just your mere presence, you help people, you free them from the nonsense of their own life. So that's activating your power. So that's the mechanism of activating your power. But also to do that, you've got to clear all the priority blocks that keep you from doing that. So, and that means clearing all the karma that you've accumulated in this life. And if you believe in past lives, then you got to clear it too. And so that's important to know. And I'm about to show you a technique, a new evolutionary technique that will allow you to clear the priority blocks in a couple of different ways. So, and I just want to say, I promise you to talk, this is a training about infinite love. When you fully embody your Rishi self, when you fully embody all your waking, dreaming, deep sleep, witness, non-dual self, when you fully embody that, when you've awakened all 15 chakras, when you have activated all aspects of yourself and embodied all aspects of yourself, you are an ocean of infinite love. You live in an ocean of infinite love. You are indestructible. You are inexhaustible. You are infinite love. You are the Divine Mother. And so this removing the blocks and activating all the energies to embody your rainbow unique self, your most amazing self, most magnificent self, most fabulous, extraordinary self. That experience equals being divine love. And so, how does that start? Well, one is with your intention. The next is with the choices that you make. The for those of you who have studied the Course in Miracles, it talks about choices. Are you choosing love? Or are you choosing fear? So what I say is, are you choosing love, or are you choosing your defenses? Are you choosing the barriers that you've erected to protect yourself and that also keep you from experiencing love? So am I in defense, or am I surrendering and opening to infinite love? That becomes the question. And I just wanted to say something about choice points. Where classic meditation is so valuable is that it allows us to sit and to choose. And we realize that there's a stimulus, and then there's an awareness, and then there's a response. And in most people who are living in three-dimensional time and space, and they're still caught in the matrix, and they're living from their first three chakras, there's a stimulus, and the response is habitual and immediate. There's almost no awareness, or if it is, it's subconscious. And so where meditation, traditional meditation, is so valuable is it gives you that little bit of space to realize, oh, there's a stimulus. I have an awareness, I'm a witness, and now I'm going to choose the response that I want to make instead of being hijacked and moving into an habitual unconscious response. There was a wonderful study from Duke University that came out, I believe, in 2006 that said that 60% of the choices that we make every day are unconscious. Think about that. Over half the choices that you make every day are completely unconscious. They're going on in the back of your mind, and we're not even paying attention to them. So this process is about becoming as conscious as possible so that you can master the response that you want instead of being hijacked by something that's habitual and unconscious. So it's really, really important distinction. And that's where, our moral intelligence, that all falls into moral IQ, is discerning what is the next best strategic choice for me, and then to consciously follow through with that. So let's, one more thing. I'm going to talk about classic enlightenment versus evolutionary enlightenment, and then we're going to get to the clearing that I promised you at the beginning. So think in terms of classic enlightenment. I had the pyramid, the base of the pyramid, from the left, the separate self, the ego self, and then on the far right was the impersonal self, the no self. And that's a long way to go. I mean, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, witness, non-dual awareness stretches along the base of that pyramid. But for thousands of years, that's been the path of enlightenment. Is and the reason I don't use the term true self is because for thousands of years, the impersonal self, the enlightened self, was called the true self, but it was impersonal. It was completely, I am one with everything. I am consciousness. The world is an illusion. Suffering is an illusion. The ego is an illusion. And that's all there was to it. And now what we realize, particularly in about the last 400 years, is that there's actually an evolution of consciousness. There's an evolution of meditation. There's an evolution of enlightenment. And that enlightenment, that shift to the peak of the pyramid where I transcend, include, and integrate all aspects of myself, the aware ego, and all the enlightened impersonal voices, we bring them back and integrate them into the body, into the self. So that's a really, really important shift in consciousness, is moving from evolutionary enlightenment into classic, from classic enlightenment into evolutionary enlightenment. Okay, so thank you guys for hanging in here. We're 75 minutes into our program, and I just want to say, um, who's here is now ready for a clearing. And the first clearing we're going to do is um, clearing to any blocks that you have to connecting to and communicating with your higher self. So, who's ready for that? I do want to just say um, that there are layers and layers and layers of these frozen light, these sanskaras, these karmic imprints that are layered in the subtle body. And so, we're always working and clearing in what I call the priority. What are the priorities that are up and activated and ready to heal and clear and go? So just because we do this once doesn't mean that you're going to be completely cleared for all time. There could be other layers that are still dormant, and you need to peel this layer, peel this layer of the onion. And I'll tell you, here's a simple way to tell if you're clear. If you're finally karmically clear and living in line with your soul purpose, if you can manifest, if you set an intention and it manifests with exquisite speed and exquisite ease, with no resistance, no contraction, no frustration, then you are 100% clear. And you're embodying and living in your highest self and your highest level of consciousness. So, great. That's the test. If not, our job is, again, as Rumi said in that quote at the beginning of the training, our job is not to seek for love, but to begin to break down all the barriers we have created to them. Now, a lot of those barriers we created unconsciously and subconsciously as defenses, but now we get to consciously clear them and clear them. So we're going to do a clearing, and that's going to take away the first level. And I do want to say that using these codes and being able to activate and access the highest levels of consciousness, you'll recognize this circle, that three circles that intersect. This is an ancient code, and the three circles intersecting actually activate the Rishi self. If there were two circles, you think about the Coco Chanel logo. If there's two circles intersecting, that's a Biveka code, and that activates the avatar self. This Triveka code activates the Rishi self. So it's activating the highest level of your being just by looking at this. So, so what I would like you to do is imagine this code, sitting, looking at it, and now just soften your eyes a little bit. And now imagine that this code is entering into your third eye, into your mind's eye, in the back of your brain. And now you can close your eyes. It is commanded in the name of divine love that this sacred code is used to clear all blocks that keep everyone that can hear my voice from communicating clearly with their highest selves. That all blocks be completely cleared from every level of their awareness, every level of their being, permanently and now. Take a breath. All blocks be removed from all levels of awareness, permanently and now. Ta Asian Tadoi. which translates very roughly into as above, so below. So I'm tracking the energy for everybody that's listening to my voice. And the energy is starting to move and clear through every level of your awareness. Everyone just keep sensing, keep breathing, just be present in your body, noticing any sensation. There we go. The energy's just now going quantum, completing. So please enter into the chat if what you noticed, what you sensed, what you felt during that clearing, and then we'll do one more clearing. All right, sometimes it takes a couple minutes for the chat to update. So let's go on and move with our next clearing. And we're going to focus on the priority karmic imprints for money and wealth manifestation. So just basically asking for and getting the money that you want to deserve. Okay, a couple things have come through. Christina said an enormous shift in energy in my third chakra. Marie said physically muscular jerking, emotionally peaceful. That happens to me quite a bit, Marie, actually. A long time ago, one of my energy teachers called them kriyas. It's the body sort of jerking muscularly as the energy is releasing and moving and working out. Lynn, I want to say, Lynn says tightness in my throat. So Lynn, I just want you to be present with this clearing can actually go on for 3 days, even up to 6 or 7 days. So, just but be present with the throat right now, just allowing that, that energy to be there. Surround it with the love of the Divine Mother. I know you access that quality of yourself. So be present with what's ever moving through the throat and just meet it with attention and presence and love and allow it to do what it needs to do. Okay, so let's move on to the next clearing. So we're going to clear for karmic imprints that keep you from manifesting the money that you want and deserve. So again, looking at the code and allowing your eyes sort of soften, a very soft gaze, a Zen meditation gaze, and imagining this code in your mind's eye. It is commanded in the name of divine love that this sacred code be used to clear all priority imprints, karmic imprints that are activated now. That they are cleared from every level of awareness, every level of being, permanently and now. Taijin Tadoi. And now taking a deep breath. Just be present. Keep breathing. Energy's moving a little slow. A lot of imprints here. A lot of frozen light. There it goes. Starting to move quantum now. Quantum means releasing from the physical body, the neural networks of the mind and the brain, as well as completely leaving the energy grid. All right. Well, that's the second clearing there. And so I'd love to enter into what you sensed, what you experienced, what you felt with that. And then also we come to the Q&A. So if you've got any questions about what we've talked about and gone over today, or your experience with clearing the karmic imprints, the priority imprints that are blocking you from your higher self and or manifesting the money you want and deserve, this is the time to ask those questions. And I just want to say thank you for your attention. We're going to do a Q&A. I am going to make an invitation to those who would like to go deeper into this work with me. And then we will finish with another round of questions and answers. So let the chat catch up here. Marie said my connection dropped mid-clearing, but still felt incredibly connected. That's the beauty of this work. Whether you're connected or not, once we've established with your higher self that we're doing this clearing, then it's on. And we don't have to be connected by phone or internet to do that. So that's great. Beautiful. Feeling pressure up against the top of my skull. So I would just say for Marie, I felt that, the beginning of the clearing for everybody. So like I said, it can take a few days to really move through. Does that pressure at the top of your skull, does it feel painful, or do you just feel that as a pressure? So long as it's just a pressure, just really allow it to be, and just bring your attention, bring your awareness, bring in every quality of love that you have for it. All right, Rex said, "You've definitely felt an activation in my third eye. I have to go now." Rex, you're very welcome. Coach Kimberly says, "Felt some soreness in my heart, but then moved and I felt peaceful." Beautiful, beautiful. All right, well, let me make an invitation and see if any questions come in, and then we'll answer those. Yeah, Marie, it's only a sensation, no judgment. And that's really the most beautiful place to be. And that's the wisdom of that witness consciousness, that avatar consciousness, is you transcend. You still have access to your evaluator of noticing that, sensations moving and changing, but there's no judgment to it. So that avatar level of consciousness is all about non-attachment. It's just like, this is what's happening, this is what is, with incredible clarity. So for those of you that are interested, I just want to invite you on a week from Tuesday, on the 23rd, we are starting a 12-week training, Embodying Your Soul Purpose. And what you get for that training is a 3-day live retreat with me, and then also 12 weeks of online training. The 3-day intensive live retreat led by me. I'll be there the whole time. We are going to completely go over the curriculum, but make sure that everybody, the first 5 weeks of the training, everyone in the group gets a complete aura clearing, karma clearing, connection to the higher self, wealth, money, finances, health, relationships, all levels of karma in the major areas of life. And then we do a light body activation where we really are starting to turn on that dimmer switch and activate all 5 levels as much as you are able to hold. Then we're going to focus on the soul purpose work. We're really going to take about 4 weeks. Now, I have to say that every single session we are doing the enlightened tapping. So you're going to learn the enlightened tapping. I need to put that on my slides here. So you will learn the process of activating your avatar self and your Rishi self over and over and over. And you can go to it any time of day that you want, over and over and over. So fabulous. And then from that place of being in that high level of consciousness, we're going to do the aura clearing, the karma clearing, and the light body activation so that you can embody it more and more and more. And then from that place of communicating with your avatar and Rishi selves, the highest levels of consciousness possible, we will start to dialogue with your soul purpose. And a lot of people will say, really, I really feel like I'm guessing. I'm really kind of stuck here. Well, the clearing that we just did on opening communication to your higher self, and certainly doing that whole first 4 weeks of clearing and opening the channels of communication with the higher self will completely change and transform that. So we'll be dialoguing with your higher self on what is your universal soul purpose, your unique soul purpose, your mission, your legacy, your message, and your divine audience. And so we'll dialogue that, and then we'll learn how to turn those into affirmations get crystal clear in the mirror with them so that the wording really is beautiful and polished and smooth and rolls off your tongue. And then the final section is really about manifesting. It's like once we've activated your energy, once we've cleared the karma, once we've aligned you with your soul purpose, how do you set a goal in alignment with your soul purpose and set it in the energy of your being so that it can manifest as quickly as possible? So the final the final 4 weeks of this training is really about how you manifest, set a goal in the energy of your being, and then communicate with your higher self on what is the next strategic action. And then take that action and go from there. So that's the core of the training. It's 12 90-minute calls led by me. And then here is, the breakdown of what you get weeks 1 through 5. The activating, the connecting to your unique rainbow self, your avatar Rishi self, clearing the blocks from all the different levels of being. Week 6 through 8 is dialoguing with the soul purpose. At this point, you're going to be so clear, it's really going to be a lot easier than you imagine. And then you've got a week in between each to practice and polish the wording that you get. Now, of course, I do this as a daily practice. I did this process for months, and noticing, okay, once you get to a certain depth, it's like, okay, some of the words might change a little bit, some little impulse here, a little awareness here, something to fold in or tuck into here. But you start to get really consistent, and you really feel like, oh, this is my purpose. And this is where I'm at right now. And then 9 through 12, again, tapping with embodying your unique rainbow self, embodying your soul purpose, setting goals in divine energy, divine right timing, divine right order, and then surrendering to the feedback that you get from the universe and getting the next course correct from the universe. So that's what's included over the 12 weeks. So then there's a bonus that comes, your Enlightened Tapping Meditation Home Study course. That is how to do the tapping. Oh, the Wisdom Warrior training, that's another 8-week training that I did, $197 value. The 5 Tibetan, $97 value. The Tai Chi 5-element moving, my favorite Tai Chi sequence that I've really done since about 1980. I don't know, 82 or 83. I learned that, and I still do it. It just is so beautiful, so simple. And then there's a kaleidoscopic chakra meditation group. And then there's the Facebook group. You get access to that, and that's already very fun and festive. The full value, the 3-day retreat with me, and we looked at a spectacular place. We're not sure exactly where the retreat could be. It could be at a hotel here in Houston, and we will take at least a day trip. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to be working on clearing the karma of America. One day we'll do a ceremony. So we'll take a day trip someplace. I was exploring yesterday at a retreat center that looks just absolutely perfect and beautiful for it. I prefer to do all 3 days at the retreat center, but it just depends on some other details. So then the 12 90-minute training calls, another $5,000 value, plus the bonus package that's over almost $11,000 at the full value of the training. And your investment today for being on this webinar exclusive during the Enlightened Tapping experience is $1997 for full pay, or you get a multi-pay of $597 for 4 months. If you choose to do full pay, you get a bonus with me, which is 2 30-minute one-on-one sessions. So that's the price. So if you're interested in applying for this Embodying Your Soul Purpose training, you can email me at news@throughyyourbody.com. I definitely want to interview everyone that comes into the group to make sure that you're a good fit. There are already 17 people in the program, extraordinary, high functioning, high frequency people. And I just want to make sure that everybody that comes in, really is a compliment to the group. So if you would like to have a quick phone call with me, please email me at news@throughyyourbody.com and put in the subject line Soul Purpose. So that's it. So any Q&A that you have, and Christina, I know a couple people on the webinar today have already are already in the Soul Purpose group. Christina is, Denise is, Lynn is, Coach Kimberly is. So that's some of the people that I'm looking forward to and that will be with us. Yes, Marie, the dates are, we start the training on February 23rd on Tuesday afternoon, and the webinars will go from Tuesday afternoon to Sunday afternoons. I think there's 5 Sundays and 7 Tuesdays. And I'm doing this off the cuff. Let me see. The event, I believe, is April 8th, 9th, and 10th, and that is in Houston. So I'll make sure. Oh, that's Miss Jan. That's Jan Dinan from Boulder. Boulder, from Denver. Hello, Miss Jan. I did not realize that was you. So yes, Jan is already in. Fabulous. So Marie, yes, the dates are, we start on February 23rd, and we go for the 12 weeks, and there'll be a webinar every week. And then the 3-day event, I believe, is April 8th, 9th, and 10th. And if somebody is in the group, oh, thank you. So yes, so Lynn says, looking forward to getting started. Coach Kimberly, thank you, Alan. You are fabulous, and I feel so blessed to be with you today. Thank you for taking your time, and got a little karma clearing there too. So, I'm one of those people that studied, and I'm always looking for the spiritual solution. What works and what's going to make a difference in my health and my well-being, my relationships, my financial reality, my consciousness, and so I'm just bringing to you the cutting edge of that. So thank you. All right. Well, please email me, and if you would like to have a quick discussion about um, the Soul Purpose Group, and I'll get back to you. We'll set up an appointment to talk. And Marisa, the times of calls, they're at 1:30 Central, which I believe is 12:30 Mountain Time. And that is both on the Tuesdays and the Sundays. I just wanted to keep it consistent. So um, thank you, Marie. All right. Well, would love to have you guys join us for this soul purpose journey, and we will take it from there. So if there's no other questions, this is your last call to answer questions. That would be great. And I believe that says thank you deeply. Okay, well, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. So thank you for your attention. I really appreciate you. And we will talk soon. Bye bye.